आज की वीडियो में दो पेरेंट्स, मेघना और मैं। अब इमेजिन करो, हम दोनों, एक कोच एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट, जब अपने बच्चों को रेज कर रहे हैं तो हम उनके साथ कितना बुरा हश्र करते होंगे, हम उनको कितना अपनी थेरेपीज और अपने कोचिंग मेथोडोलॉजी से परेशान करते होंगे।
मैं तो बहुत परेशान करती हूँ, मेरे बच्चे ही मेरे गिनी पिग्स हैं।
आज की वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे इमोशंस के बारे में, डेथ के बारे में, इनसिक्योरिटीज के बारे में, मैस्टरबेशन के बारे में, प्यूबर्टी के बारे में, मेंस्ट्रुएशन के बारे में और बहुत कुछ। लेकिन ये वीडियो दो पार्ट्स में है, एक इस चैनल पे और एक मेघना के चैनल पे, और उसका लिंक मैं नीचे दे रहा हूँ। सो आप लोग एंजॉय करिए, देखते रहिए इग्नाइटेड न्यूरॉन्स एंड डॉक्टर मेघना's channel and the therapist mommy, and hope you enjoy this video. If you do, share it with others because ये life lessons सिर्फ teenagers, सिर्फ preteens या सिर्फ parents के लिए नहीं है. It applies to all of us. So welcome Meghna to our first conversation. I should call you Dr. Meghna, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me here, Utkarsh.
No, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this conversation because this is a conversation that is happening between two parents who are going to share how we are struggling through this rewarding journey of parenting. Is that right, Meghna?
It's absolutely correct. Struggling through the rewarding journey is such an apt phrase that I think we should make this the tagline.
One question that's been on my mind, Meghna, what prompted you to first become a psychologist and then work with parents and kids, which is a hard field as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah. So what prompted me to become a psychologist is I knew right from the age of 12. And that's what we're talking about today, right? Preteens, So I knew somehow right from the age of 12 that I wanted to be in the helping profession. I was always very good at people skills. Those skills, empathy, deep listening, were not even considered skills at that point of time. And I realized at a very young age that I am good at these people skills, and then when I started exploring, I chanced upon psychology, which is not even a field at that time. Like 20 years ago, this was not even something that people would pursue. But I stuck to my guns. I told my parents that I wanted to study psychology. Surprisingly, they were very supportive, even though they were initially shocked. And so that's that's what I did. I went on to pursuing my undergrad and then grad and then a couple of masters and then so on and so forth. So I always knew I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, and I liked working with children and adolescents. But the more I worked with them, the more I realized that my work is incomplete until I include parents as equal stakeholders. And that's when I decided to do my postdoc in parenting, and by then I had become a parent myself, and I realized how wrong it is that whatever models there are, theoretical models that deal with parenting, for example behaviorism, right, they look at parenting as in a completely wrong lens. I felt the focus is too much on behavior and too less on feelings. I felt the focus is too much on ye badal do, wo badal do, and too less on how do we honor our child's who our child is authentically, their authentic selves.
Love that. No, thank you for sharing. And Meghna, as you continue to talk, मैं इसको थोड़ा distill करता रहूँगा हमारे viewers के लिए, which are Hindi and English speaking, because मेरे को इस बड़ा अच्छा बात एक सुनाई दे रही कि the whole family was focused on numbers, but you were focused on people. So I think that's something that we all need to learn, that it's not necessary that we are destined to be someone or something. We can choose our paths on our own. And I think if you can take this away from this video, I think that'll be great. But आज की इस वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे कि कैसे जो प्रीटीन एज होते हैं, where my both kids are right now 8 and 13 के बीच की जो एज होती है, ये काफी कॉम्प्लेक्स होती है, एंड इसमें बहुत सारे एवोल्यूशंस हो रहे होते हैं बच्चों के अंदर, फिजिकली और इमोशनली. The first question that I have to ask, Meghna, is that when we think about a child, and you were prompting to that when you were sharing initially, हम उनको एक बच्चा समझते हैं, right? वो छोटी बच्ची हो क्या, छोटा बच्चा हो क्या, but how can one try to shift that thinking where a child is not just a child, but it's a whole human in its completeness?
Well, I think just understand that it's not just even about a child. It's just about honoring a human being, understanding that each human being has inherent worth and inherent value, irrespective of whether they achieve something, irrespective of their marks, irrespective of how they look, irrespective of all these external things. Every human being is worthy, and we have been conditioned to think कि such a bhuka nanga insan, maybe a beggar, a street person, who's been raised on the roadside, is perhaps not worthy. But that is not true. When we shift our lens, we have to shift from that perspective कि every human being is worthy irrespective of all these external things of clothes and money and marks and all the stuff that we judge other people on, other human beings on. And then when we start to think about our children, we will realize our children, irrespective of their behavior, irrespective of their marks, and irrespective of what friends they choose to make, and irrespective of all these external things, they are worthy human beings. तो जब हमारी लेंस उसमें शिफ्ट हो जाती है, right, when we start valuing people and children as worthy and inherently valuable, तब ये जो आप बोल रहे हैं ना कि how do we treat them as human beings, तब वो लेंस हमारे सामने आ जाती है.
Such a powerful thought, right? कि जब हमारी ये जो definition of worthiness जो कहीं ना कहीं सोसाइटी ने हमें सिखा दी है, based on religion, based on sex, based on gender, whatever you want to call it, like जिसके ज्यादा मार्क्स आते हैं वो अच्छा है, जो कम मार्क्स ला रहा है तो खराब है. जब रिजल्ट्स आते हैं तो मैं बड़ा हैरान होता हूँ कि स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन किया जाता है कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल के स्टूडेंट्स ने इतना अच्छा किया. Why is that
as if क्यों फर्क पड़ता है कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल का बच्चा है या प्राइवेट स्कूल का बच्चा है, मतलब.
I mean, and the thought that you and I are talking about right now, and if that can be translated कि अगर हम सब ये मान लें कि we are all worthy of who we are, of what choices we make, then I think बहुत सारी इस दुनिया की conflicts हट जाएंगी.
और सबसे ज्यादा जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सॉर्ट आउट होगा ना उत्कर्ष, वो होगा हमारा जो इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है.
Beautiful.
मतलब बिकॉज दो सबसे जो अहम बात होती है ना एक इंसान में, जो इंसान की सेल्फ एस्टीम होती है, वो मतलब आई मीन इट्स सो हार्श द वे वी जज आवरसेल्व्स समटाइम्स. आई मीन आई जस्ट गॉट ऑफ अ थेरेपी सेशन फ्रॉम दिस गाय. ही इज फ्रॉम IIT Delhi. He is doing very well in his career. He's a dad, he's a loving husband, but inherently he cannot treat himself as worthy until he achieves something great at work. He gets a promotion, he earns more than his co-worker, he goes to 3 foreign countries every year. मतलब ये indicators हैं हमारे worth के.
And I mean, our conversation is going deeper and deeper than where I had imagined it'll go. क्योंकि जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, वेट को लेके बहुत लोगों के साथ ये कॉन्वर्सेशन होता है कि अगर आपका वेट ज्यादा है तो देयर इज अ सेल्फ इमेज इश्यूज, सेल्फ क्रिटिकल हो जाते हैं हम, एंड सेल्फ एस्टीम भी आ जाती है. एंड दिस मे बी देन लेट मी आस्क यू दिस, व्हेन डू यू थिंक एंड हाउ डू यू थिंक these issues of weight or body image start to impact children, because they're in that age range that we're talking about today. How does it impact children, if you can shed some light on it?
So when does it start? You'll be surprised, Utkarsh. There are research studies, and of course we see that anecdotally, clinically, it starts right from preschool age. Wow. The distinction कि वो ज़्यादा गोरी है, वो ज़्यादा चिट्टी है, अरे वो ज़्यादा पतली और सुंदर है, अरे वो ज़्यादा tall है. मतलब all of these are messages that our kids are getting from us, from their teachers, from their peers, from the movies, from the shows that they're exposed to. So this is all, I would use the word toxic. Matlab, it just shatters a child who is not fitting into that mold of gora, patla, sundar. What rubbish is this? So it starts right from preschool age, and the impact is just really adverse, because basically what you're teaching your child is exactly the opposite of what we were talking about. कि आप worthy नहीं हो, जब तक आपकी skin साफ नहीं है ना, आप worthy नहीं हो. So it has a very, very adverse impact on our kids. And to any parents watching this, मैं एक विनती करूँगी आपसे कि प्लीज लुक्स के इंडिकेटर अपने बच्चों से दूर रखिए. अपने आप को, जब आप अपनी बॉडी को जब आप जज करते हैं ना, जब आप एक सिंपल सा कमेंट मारते हैं, जेन्युइनली मार रहे होंगे कि नहीं यार दिवाली में ना बहुत ज़्यादा मिठाई खा ली, देखो मैं कितनी ब्लोटेड लग रही हूँ, या फिर ये देखो ये ड्रेस मेरे पे कितनी अच्छी लगती है, मैं कितनी पतली लग रही हूँ, या बेटा देखो तुम उस ड्रेस में कितने सुंदर लगते हो, कितने टॉल लगते हो. ऐसे कमेंट्स, they go a long way in reinforcing a very toxic message to our kids that your appearance is all that matters. So please be very, very consciously aware of these messages that we are sending to our kids. उनका मीडिया मॉनिटर करें, क्योंकि मीडिया से ये बहुत मैसेजेस आते हैं. And to any young people watching this video, I would like to just tell you that your appearance is just a very, very, very tiny, very minuscule part of who you really are.
Correct.
And it just doesn't matter. What matters is who you are as a person. I know it's easier for all of us to say this, but trust me, as a person who does therapy day in and day out, trust me, the person you are and your heart and your values are all that matters.
Very beautiful where we are taking this conversation, क्योंकि मतलब ये इतनी important बात है. अगर आप you're saying preschool में ये start हो जाता है
Yeah.
through the media, through the conversations parents are having, and so अब मेरे को समझ आ रहा है कि क्यों you want to include both parents and children in those conversations, क्योंकि दोनों को convert होना है. We are not speaking about these things openly.
Yeah.
हम सब घरों में बंद होके इन चीजों के बारे में, like I'll give you an example. So just now, just before our conversation today, my little one came home and he's been practicing piano school में किसी
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
And today he came back, he was sitting with a gloomy face. मैंने पूछा, how's your day today? And he did not want to respond. मैंने कहा, okay, what happened today that gave you joy? So just wanted to transform the question. He said, कुछ भी अच्छा नहीं था. आज मैं 8 पूरे 7 घंटे 6 घंटे बास्केटबॉल कोर्ट में बिठाया क्योंकि एक एनुअल फंक्शन के लिए they're preparing.
अच्छा.
And I knew I had a call in 10 minutes, so I spent 2 minutes with him saying, how are you feeling? So he said, I'm feeling sad. And I told him, like, keep this feeling of sadness with you. And then when I'll come back from my call, then we'll talk more about it. Because अगर मैं उस टाइम कहता अरे ऐसे थोड़ी करना है, ये थोड़ी होता है, इतना अच्छा important function है, तुम क्यों नहीं करना चाहते? Then I'm blaming the child.
नहीं, you're absolutely doing something very important, Utkarsh. You are giving your child the space to feel his feelings. Absolutely. Which is exactly the essence of emotional intelligence, which is so important because you know that's how we were raised, right? जल्दी से problem solving, जल्दी से अरे रो क्यों रहे हो, अच्छा गुस्सा मत करो, अच्छा इसको fix करते हैं. But all of this does not help the child, and then these are the children who grow up as and become adults and they're like, why am I feeling unhappy, why am I feeling so empty, इस promotion से मुझे खुशी क्यों नहीं मिल रही है? अच्छा खुशी मिलती है लेकिन जब मैं बहुत stress होता हूँ, why do I reach for a tub of ice cream? You know, so all of these are indicators that inside we are distressed and we have no space, no safe space to let out our distress. Right, so I'm loving you know what you're doing with your children. Love that.
It's so important what you and I are speaking about. You know, I want them to learn to express, to process, to appreciate the emotions that they're feeling. क्योंकि ना हमें सिखाया जाता है कि सिर्फ तुम खुशी हो सकते हो या दुखी हो सकते हो, एक दो feelings और. But there's such a array of emotion, like I think some research I was reading and maybe you know it better. Some 35,000 इमोशंस है इस दुनिया में. हम उनमें से क्या 5 भी फील नहीं करते ठीक से, और कहते हैं कि हम बड़े हो गए हैं. So
no, it all starts from emotional awareness, self awareness basically, जिसकी हम पहले भी बात कर रहे थे. It is so important to inculcate self awareness. Self awareness का मतलब है हम अपने आप के अंदर recognize करें कि हम क्या महसूस कर रहे हैं. That is the first step. The second step is naming and labeling, and name it to tame it is the third step. But the first step is just self awareness. और वो self awareness हमें तब जब आती है जब हम अपने पेरेंट्स को देखते हैं हमारी फीलिंग्स रिफ्लेक्ट करते हुए. अच्छा बेटा आप जैसे यू नो द वे यू स्पोक टू योर सन, टेल मी व्हाट यू फीलिंग. अच्छा आई एम फीलिंग सैड. सो ही बिकम्स अवेयर कि अच्छा ये एक इमोशन है सैडनेस, इसका करना क्या है मुझे. मतलब यू डिडंट से डोंट बी सैड, यू डिडंट से कि लेट्स चीयर अप, आई विल टेक यू आउट फॉर आइसक्रीम. नहीं, लाइक इट्स ओके टू बी सैड, not jumping into fixing it. And उसके बाद क्या होगा, उसके बाद ये होगा when he stays with that sad feeling long enough and when he knows कि that sad feeling is wrapped with my papa's love. That is how children develop resilience, Baba. That is how they learn to bounce back from, you know, all the messy and chaos of life. That is how they learn. So तो बहुत जब पेरेंट्स पूछते हैं ना, अरे हम अपने बच्चे को रिजिलिएंट कैसे बनाएं, बात बात पे रोता है, बात बात पे सोर लूजर है, हार के एकदम वो हो जाता है. ऐसे बनती है रेजिलियंस बच्चों में. Let them cry and let them fail and let them, but your job is to reflect those feelings back to them and provide all your love and safety to them.
Absolutely. While we're speaking of resilience, I mean एक और thought दिमाग में आता है कि you know, and this I've experienced during COVID, so let's see where we can take this conversation. During COVID, many people lost their parents and siblings and who not, right? And so how do you explain to a preteen or even a teen for that matter, even elders, but let's focus on preteen. उनको कैसे समझाएं what is death and how do you let go of a person, how do you process grief?
So I think you bring up a very very important issue, and a lot of parents had reached out to me during COVID कि you know my child's grandparent has passed away, how do we break the news, should we break the news, should we let the child see the dead body, should we let them. So it's one cardinal rule, one fundamental rule is death is the most natural process, and we are not protecting our kids from the news or the intensity of death by keeping them away from it. One gets, even when as a small child, even as a small toddler or preschooler, one encounters death when you see a dead butterfly on the road, when your pet dies, or you know you see death, the indicators of death all around you. So death is not an alien concept to the kids. Let's first understand that. And the second thing is, it is absolutely imperative that we introduce death to kids. If somebody in the family, for example, has died, by not using euphemisms, by saying it simply and clearly. It would look like this: Beta, yesterday your grandma passed away. Yesterday your grandma died because of old age or heart attack or whatever might be the reason. I know this might be difficult for you, but you know what, beta, I'm always here for you. Full stop. This is the most simple, hard and direct way in which we can talk or break the news, and then of course have ongoing conversations. You know what parents found surprising when they would approach me is, "Arey, हमारा बच्चा तो रो ही नहीं रहा है." My child looked up from their drawing. I said कि your grandma died, and they went back to their drawing. And I'm like, सिर्फ रोना इंडिकेटर तो नहीं होता ना grief का.
Exactly.
They are processing this in their own way. And it is your job as a parent to keep bringing this up again and again. Suppose आपके बच्चे ने कोई reaction नहीं दिया, you bring this up very gently again the next day. You remember, beta, what we talked about yesterday? I wonder what you're feeling about it. Full stop. That's it. And then give a safe space. You are not supposed to determine कि आपका बच्चा कैसा feel करेगा. You are just supposed to be there for them, irrespective of what they feel. And they can feel anything. Their feelings may come out in any way. It can come out as a scream, it can come out as tears, it can come out as not wanting to meet anybody. It is okay. And you talked about processing grief, right? Involvement of the child in all these rituals is actually super important.
Absolutely.
Because ये rituals एक वजह से बनाए गए हैं. नहीं, हमारे rituals जो होते हैं डेथ के सराउंडिंग 13वीं, मतलब बहुत बहुत लंबा चलता है. हिंदू धर्म में तो बहुत लंबा चलता है, because they help with closure. So why would we not involve our kids in something that helps them have closure? In addition to that, we can have these small activities. Suppose a grandparent has passed away. How do you want to remember your grandparent? You remember that trip our Nana ji came along. Do you want to draw a card for him? So that you always remember him by. Do you want to look at his photographs? Do you want to write him a letter? Anything that helps me remember that person and hold them in my heart with fond memories. That's all. That is what is meant by closure. That is what is meant by I've grieved the person and now I will forever, hold them in my heart with fondness. I will always cherish that memory. So that is how it goes for adults, and that is how it goes for children. There is no difference. The only difference is children might choose to express their grief differently. Well, actually even adults do. But it is okay to talk directly about death. It is not okay to use euphemisms.
Yeah, it's beautiful, the conversation we're having. It's just taking me back again to building more self-awareness, staying more patient with the human, not just a child or not just an elder, or not just a peer or not just a spouse, or just stay patient with everyone, just stay mindful, just stay present, and like use the words in a very supportive, thoughtful manner. क्योंकि हम कई बार ऐसी बात कर लेते हैं, कोई comment कर देते हैं या कुछ ऐसा remark pass कर देते हैं which can hurt the other person really badly. And I think as parents तो responsibility बहुत ही बढ़ जाती है, but as humans I think we have to be very thoughtful and mindful of that. And while you were saying this, a while ago we lost my father-in-law, and during that 13-day process of grief, it was a few years ago. Through the 13-day process of grief, the kids actually witnessed all these ceremonies.
That's
kids
amazing.
Went to, when we were putting the fire to fire, and that all left with them with the memory. And it did not you cannot steal that memory away from a child. It is you as a parent, I think, who has to do this very thoughtfully and fondly.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Meghna. I think we've spoken about some very deep topics. We've spoken about emotions. We've spoken about insecurities. We did not plan to speak about death, but we've spoken about death too. I hope हमारे viewers को इससे कुछ सीखने को, कुछ inspirational और कुछ ऐसा मिलेगा जिससे वो और बेहतर जिंदगी अपने लिए create कर सकें. But since you've spent some time, let's go to your channel. I'll put the link in the comment section, in the description, so that we can have the rest of the conversation there, where we'll speak about कि ये जो physical changes आते हैं pre-teens में, उसके बारे में कैसे हम अपने बच्चों से बात कर सकते हैं, उससे हम क्या सीख सकते हैं, and maybe I don't know where the conversation will go because we're enjoying it. What do you think, Meghna?
Absolutely, I'm loving this, Utkarsh. We should do this more often, actually.
Awesome. Let's go then.